Welcome back into the Dedicated Podcast. Ben Spicer and Johnathan Mumphrey. We are taking it to Mobile, Alabama tonight. The founder, coach of 251 Family 7v7, also the defensive coordinator, inside linebacker coach, and recruiting coordinator at Alma Bryant High School. Carl Jackson, Coach, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us, and we're excited to have you here.
Appreciate y'all for having me, man. I've been a big fan of y'all movement, so, it's nothing but love.
Coach, I appreciate that. I mean, we definitely been locked in for many years and all those things. Heard you just had a season, your season over, and you kind of getting geared up to make some transitions. Kind of tell us about how the season went with your school, how your defense do this year.
We actually had I had a young group, man. We actually had a lot of progress there this year. Probably signed by 5 kids this year, but they're on the uptick right now. We season didn't go as well as I wished it would have went, but seeing a lot of progress, a lot of kids kind of growing up in the game and really growing into great men.
Well, I think that knowing you, that's definitely something you always focus on, is just trying to take these young men and turn them, young boys, and turn them into men. Ben, I'm gonna pass it on to you, kind of let you dig in there.
Yeah, I just wanted to say there was a title that I missed with Coach Jackson. He's also the college recruiting coordinator there, and that's a position you've held at all the schools you've been out in the 2+ decades coaching high school football. So I was just kind of curious, like, what all does that entail? And I'm sure, I would imagine that's a year-round job for you. So although the season has ended, you're probably still working in that position at least, right?
Yeah, I kind of made my name in helping kids get to college. Kind of giving you a little bit of my background. Prior to me getting to high school, I actually coached park ball for 8 years. And in coaching park ball, man, the biggest thing you want to do is help kids get prepared for the next level. Quite naturally, once I got to high school, it continued to the same thing. So, in park, you're trying to get kids prepared for high school. In high school, you're getting kids prepared for college and getting them prepared for life. So it kind of the same goal in a different position.
Well, Coach, I mean, that kind of brings me back. I was doing a little homework on you as well. Well, one thing about the Dedicated podcast, we want to try to figure out a moment in your young life that kind of started you down your path to being dedicated to who the man you become today. I know me, just a real quick story. One of the things I share all the time is my moment was about 16, just growing up in the 80s. That's when the crack epidemic hit our neighborhood and hit our house, and dealing with some family situation inside the house. I had to start to go hit weights and try to protect mom from the house, but then figured out that was kind of, that leads me in to be stronger, to be a better athlete, and kind of found that football thing and something to take my anger out on. So, it blessed me. Kind of share with us a little bit before, because I also know some other things I want to touch on. Kind of like a young call, kind of what was that moment that make you kind of, I know you was a top high school athlete, but what was that moment that kind of, projected you in the direction you are today and the success you've had?
I would say probably the biggest thing with me was in high school. My senior year was kind of known for us having a lot of success at a nice size school, at a 5A school in Alabama, but we only had 27 players. Wow. Now, that having 27 players, I guess you could say that was kind of the start of my coaching, because the team being so small, I'm playing defense, but I have to sit in there during the offensive meeting. So I kind of learned a lot of football by, the team being so small. Now, I actually, when I went to Jackson State, left Jackson State, moved to Chicago. I came back to Mobile after I found out my grandmother was sick. And I had a friend that he knew me from playing, asked me to come by the park, and he wanted me to see the kids he was coaching. Well, when I got there, he was like, well, can you set him up in the defense for me? I set him up in the defense that day. And long story short, 28 years later, I'm still coaching. So I kind of ended up in that instance. But, for me, it's been my avenue to kind of help kids get into, help them get ready for life, to really create opportunities. I tell people all the time, a lot of kids have different gifts. Some kids have the gift of math. Some people have the gift of English. Well, some kids have the gift of athletics. And if you do have the gift of athletics, you got to be able to figure out how to take that gift to create opportunities for you to further your life, your academic career, or even your business career.
Well, so with that, I noticed that you had some time at the Boys and Girls Club. Um, how was that time there? Did that kind of start to guide you down? I mean, I've done some work. I used to work when I was in college at the Boys and Girls Club because I know you kind of get a little bit of all types of people, all types of life, and that takes some management in with those kids there.
Well, the thing about the Boys and Girls Club, my time there was the Boys and Girls Club I was at was in the middle of the projects. So
Hmm.
the Boys and Girls Club was really the first family structure a lot of those kids had. You know, a lot of them
Hmm.
might not have had fathers, might not have had, just stable homes, and you ended up hearing stories or being that sounding board for a kid that just needs someone to just to listen to them, because sometimes, like as parents, a lot of times we're on our kids to the point that sometimes they just need somebody they can trust, they can talk to, that's not going to lead them the wrong way. So that was a lot of my relationships I had in Park Ball. Now, what's funny about it, when I was coaching Park, I had a lot of success, and we would do a sleepover before every game. I mean, before every championship game. So I had a lot of people like, look, man, don't do a sleepover, man. These kids ain't gonna never go to sleep. And I was telling like, look, we're not building a team, we're building a family. I say it's easy to recruit players, it's hard to recruit family. I was like, and these kids sleeping over together, playing together, growing together. A lot of those kids that I had at that time, they're still best friends to the day. So, you can see the fruit of some of the things we've done. And that's really where you get your true payoff for what you're doing is when you see the kid that could have went any direction go in the right direction.
Do you feel like your time in that position with the Boys and Girls Club, seeing the influence and the impact you could have on lives, that kind of led you to continue coaching and advancing in your career? Do you think that maybe motivated you to continue down that path?
Yeah, so I mean, football is football. I mean, it's a little more detailed as you go up level to level, but learning to manage people. Like I early in my career, I was really blessed to have some older guys that took me under their wing, to where anybody can coach X's and O's, but being able to manage people and create toughness with kids without losing them, and being able to really get across to a kid, that's always been something I've been good at, to where I may be hard on them, but they know I love them. I mean, they know I'm not gonna lie to them, and I think that translates to any level. Anybody. I mean, you can know all the X's and O's in the world, but if you're telling them the truth about life, telling them the truth about football, telling them the truth about everything they can accomplish in their life, some of them are gonna listen to you, some of them not gonna listen. But long as
Yeah.
you know you're doing the right thing, it'll come.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I tell people all the time, coaching is about loving. I mean, it's you got to love them first. They got to know you care before they follow you. Would you say that's kind of where you come up with the word 251 family? Kind of share us a little bit about how did you come up with that organization, that name? I think the name stands out. I've always, me and you talk, quite a bit throughout the year, but I've always felt like we was family. So I know that's what you exemplified, but why did you settle on that name, 251 family? Where did that come from?
Um, Actually, I had a cousin that was on the team. I remember a couple of years ago, UCF had the undefeated team. I had a cousin that played receiver on that team, and when he played, um, they Scott Frost and them had their area code in the middle, on the little piece on their face mask. And I had a close-up shot of him. I seen 251. Now, the other thing I believe in, in the Bible, it talks about word become flesh. So that's where the family part came in. The where if you really want kids to really get something out of something, you know, I think when kids grow up together, they get to high schools and there's all these rivalries and different sides of town and all this stuff, and it divides kids that grew up together.
Yeah.
So my thing was, okay, when you go off to college, they're not gonna say what school you went to. They're gonna be like, "Oh, you from Mobile. You're from, wherever." So my thing was, okay, even though you have all these different schools, you can bring that back together, you know, at least for 7-on-7.
I want to kind of circle back to, you mentioned coaching park ball and, moving on to high school. What was that transition like for you? Talk about your first job a little bit, because you returned to your alma mater, right?
Yeah. So actually, I was the Boys and Girls Club I worked at. One of the guys that coached me was the freshman coach at my high school.
Oh, wow.
So he was getting kids that was coming through my system. He asked me to come over and coach. So I ended up coming over there helping him. He was letting me know he was getting ready to retire. So I ended up getting in there with him and ended up being there 8 years. I did freshman like 2 years. The third year, I ended up being a linebacker coach. And then from there, just moved on.
Something that stood out, and I think all three of your positions have been in the Mobile area, right?
Yes.
So something that stood out to me is, you're not only trying to help your kids get recruited, but also kids around the area. So what kind of was factored into that? And I know that was ultimately why you decided to start 251 Family in a sense. So, but with your coaching, you're at your school, what kind of influenced you to help others around you as well?
Actually, Damian Craig, former quarterback at Auburn, we were somewhere and he told me, he said, "Look, if these kids don't make it, they're not going to be on Nick Saban streets. They're going to be on our streets." So that's kind of where that came from. And that, when I was coming up, I was blessed. I had a coach that kind of gave me some of the, tools for me to try to help myself get into school. And a lot of times these kids are at places where they might not necessarily have a coach that's has the relationships or even the know-how how to help them get to the next level. And at the same time, you got guys, coaches that's trying to make their living, that's trying to find good talent. So I guess in a sense, I'm more of a talent matchmaker, if anything, so it come. But yeah, I mean, so I through the years, I've dealt with a lot of different kids from different schools and a lot of different coaches, and the biggest thing they know I'm going to tell them the truth. The way if I tell them the kid's 6 feet, he's going to be 6 feet. He ain't going to show up and the kid's 5'9". And that's a lot of this is trust.
Yeah, I think that is huge. And you and I have talked in the past about how do we continue to help these kids be great. And one of the things that I've noticed about the 251 family, you have had since I've met you had a consistent group of staff members, coaches, and everyone that's been consistent. How are you able to keep that such tight? Because what you start to see in this business is you know people start to go and start their own organization. They start to spin off. Um, kind of share with kind of your vision behind that leads into the relationships behind uh, the 251 family and those guys, because kids comes and goes, but you got to have a team.
Well, I think too, I found a bunch of like-minded guys to where, like I know, if you don't know me, you wouldn't know who's over 251 unless you know
Right.
me, and because I don't think I really push myself, I think it kind of sets the tone for other people to where I think if you make it about yourself, okay, at some point somebody gonna feel like it's their turn. But if we make it about the kids, it doesn't matter, and I think that's the biggest problem that happens in that, a lot of people, I mean, I played ball. I've been successful as a high school coach. So I'm not trying to go to 7-on-7 to become a worldwide name through 7-on-7. I'm doing it to give an opportunity to kids that, that might not have had that opportunity. At the time that I started 251, we really didn't have any 7-on-7s out of Mobile, so it was my thing to where, okay, if you want to be the best player in the country, you got to be able to get out and compete against other kids around the country to be able to validate that name.
Coach, obviously relationships have been critical over the last 2 decades for you and helping kids get to the next level. But I'm kind of curious, just an overall question: how much has the landscape of recruiting changed since 2004 when you started in high school, and how have you kind of had to adapt, maybe, or have you had to adapt at all?
I'm gonna say this. I'm finna give you one of the keys to recruiting. Okay. There's two types of coaches. There's coaches that offer kids, and there's coaches that offer kids that other coaches offer. So my thing is to find the coaches that's going to evaluate talent and offer talent. So as that's the root of all of it. There's a lot of coaches, they're going to come in, they're going to tell you all this good stuff. But at the end of the day, who didn't offer them? Did Alabama offer them? Did Auburn offer them? Yeah, okay, let us throw our offer in there with it. But there's other guys that I haven't seen, like just some guy. I'm gonna tell you this. T. Martin, for instance. T. Martin actually went to Williamson also. But me and T. Martin was friends when he was traveling with rivals. When he got his job in New Mexico, he was offering kids in Mobile. When he got his job in Kentucky, he was offering kids in Mobile. When he got a job at USC, he was offering kids in Mobile. When he got a job at Tennessee. So the characters really don't change as much as people think. I can go to T-Rod, Tavares Robinson, that's DB coach at Georgia right now. When I met T-Rod, he was a GA at Auburn. Okay, he left there. He went with Muschamp to Florida, been in South Carolina. He been in Alabama. Now he's DB. You know what I'm saying? So those relationships really don't change. Now, the transfer portal, I don't think it changed as much. I think the biggest thing, I'm different about that, the way a lot of people like, well, it's killing opportunity. No, you can't sit at your school and wait on people to walk through your door no more. It's just like price and positioning. I got to get my kid in front of a school before you get your kid in front of the school. We might have the same kid, but if they see my kid before they see your kid, my kid's probably going to get the scholarship. Now, the NIL kind of changed it, but I'm not really mad at that because me having the relationship I didn't have with coaches, with players, I didn't see kids go off to school. I'm going to just say this. I ain't going to say the school, I ain't going to say the player. There was an instance of a kid that went to a SEC school, and his mother and his father had died. Kid gets there as a freshman, don't have nothing. And it's illegal for a booster to give this kid sheets, a pillow, a trunk, all the things that all of us get when you first go off to college. And this same kid was one of the guys this school was marketing as one of their biggest recruits. I also seen an instance of a kid that was trying to decide whether he's going to go pro or not. And his problem was they got pictures of me up around the walls and I don't have a car.
Yep.
Right.
So when you look at the money that's getting handed out of NIL, we got to understand that's not new money. That money been there. They just weren't giving it to the players.
Exactly.
That ain't no new money.
No. And just to dig a little bit deeper in there, because, I think the portal, everybody talk about the portal's going to make the game up. And then just like you're talking about. But I think the portal, coaches or even college coaches, you can see they're looking at it different. If you start to transfer too many schools, you're gonna be kind of tainted. They ain't gonna want to touch you. So,
but you know what? I think the transfer portal is the great equalizer.
I agree.
Because if you are a top tier player and it just ain't no opportunity for you, just get into school. You go to a SWAC school or a D2 school. You're gonna work your way up. Correct. If you go somewhere larger than your talent, you're gonna work your way down. Correct. It's performance based now. It's not. I signed with Texas and I'm going to sit there for 4 years. No, you ain't going to sit at Texas for 4 years.
No.
You might sit at Texas Tech or Texas State, but you ain't sitting at Texas no more.
Yep.
Right. They got a great encouragement now. Hey, son, you might want to find another opportunity.
Oh, man, you ain't finna sit on it no more. You're going to have to show it every year. You're going to have, everybody always said that you got to win your scholarship every year. But now you got to win your roster spot, because why go get this kid? And I don't know if he loves football. I don't know if he's gonna duck the trappings of this. His first time away from home. How is he gonna handle that? You know,
Right.
I think it's a lot of things and a lot of factors that go into when a kid go off to college that, don't get talked about. And I think the biggest problem in recruiting is a lot of parents and players make mistakes, but we never share where we feel like we went wrong. Oh, the coach ain't like me or such and such. But
Right.
okay, won't I just tell the truth? Look, I overplayed my hand. I thought I had these offers and I ain't got nothing. That
Right.
happens every year.
Yeah.
I didn't handle my business academically. All that stuff happens. But the real reason with 251 Family is really a platform for the kids that came through Mobile to share their experiences with the
Yeah.
next group of kids. To give y'all a perfect example, I'm gonna tell y'all this, and I told this guy to his face. Ryan Williams' daddy went to Auburn, and he was a good player, but it was a couple things that Ryan learned when he was playing that I can see in his son, that he's done a great job raising his son and making sure his kid know the exact way to be prepared for the next level and how to carry himself and all that. So to see Ryan being a kid from Mobile doing that he's doing at Alabama, I think it's big, and I think that's really the true spirit of what we've been talking about. This kid, dad went out there, didn't have the career he wanted, but he made sure that the guy behind him, his son, actual son, actually, didn't fall into some of those same trappings.
So when I'm glad you brought that up, Coach. But when you say that's the essence of what we can do in the 7-on-7 space, guys like yourself, like me, other people who's played top D1 ball, played that went through it, didn't have the guidance. That's the whole goal, is to pass that guidance down to try to help guide these families and these parents and these kids through this next phase of life. Is that kind of one of your reasons from starting the 251 family?
That's exactly what it is, man. It's that there's opportunities out there. I tell people all the time, there's 134 schools in Division I football. There's another 130 something in Division I AA. There's another 120 something in D2. There's a lot of opportunities out there. Now, it might not be the one up the street that you want to go to, predicated on your situation, your measurables, or whatever those factors are. But we have to prepare our kids for what is it like. Think about, I'm gonna tell you like this. This is the biggest thing I tell the kids about 7-on-7. In college, you travel every week. You're traveling, and most, even like major schools, they might not even stay in the city that they playing in. So they might go to, like Alabama, I think they go to Birmingham or something like that. They don't stay in that city. So how you carry yourself in the hotel, how you deal with playing against kids that you hadn't necessarily seen. You may know all the kids in your immediate area, and you know where you are in the pecking order.
Right.
But when you go to a tournament, you don't know who you're running into. You don't know who's there that weekend or what it is. And it's going to
Right.
make you really have to test yourself.
Yeah, no, I agree, Coach. I mean, that's the whole thing. We try to build an atmosphere here at DR7, that we can give all the talents, and these kids can come test themselves and do some different things that we can bring a value back. Um, so how do you see this? Several years back, a lot of high schools, a lot of different locations, a lot of different areas. I know here in Texas, they was kind of negative as the 7-on-7 organizations. And I think from my opinion, I think things are kind of shifting. Where do you feel like the value of a good organization? And let's be honest, there are some guys out there that's doing some things that's all about them, but there's more guys like that are really helping the kids and helping the families. Kind of what is your opinion about how the industry is going with the 7-on-7 space right now?
I'm gonna say it like this. Everybody has their opinion based on their experience. And some of them had they didn't like 7-on-7 just out of ignorance. They didn't know. They didn't know, that how this could help their kids, or how the one of the main things with me with football was, if you're a football kid and you don't play nothing but football, or let's say you're good at football, in a lot of cases, those kids were playing travel ball football baseball, or they was playing basketball to stay in shape until it was time for football. And I was like, that's fine, but how much better could we be if we actually played our sport in the off time to develop our skills, going into the season? So when I first did it, like I said, it wasn't in an organization. Let me back up. I went to, obviously, I'm a high school coach. I'm dealing with recruiting. I'm dealing close with the kids. We had a 7-on-7 coach reach out to us, and he wanted our kids to go to a national tournament. So we went to a national tournament in Tampa, and there was over 100 teams there. It wasn't one team from Alabama. Now, mind me, at the time, the University of Alabama is winning a lot. And I'm sitting there like,
Right.
how is we at a national tournament? It's not one team from the state of Alabama. We're playing with a team out of another state just for our kids to be able to compete. So when I got back, my whole focus was, okay, how do I give the opportunities for these kids? Because the real problem was, if a kid is playing for a city out of town, they're cherry picking. They're picking one kid here, one kid there. Now, it's another kid that might be just as good, but for one reason or another, he might not have the offers, might not be as decorated. So that kid wasn't getting the opportunity. So when I built 251, I didn't build it it really wasn't built for the top tier guy. It was really built for the guy that was looking for the opportunity. Where I used to tell people all the time with 251, I'm not looking for players with offers. I'm looking for offers for my players.
Right. Love it.
So that's pretty much my, take on it. So when we first started, it was a lot of schools that did not want us to do it, didn't feel safe where they thought we was recruiting their kids. And my whole thought on it is, do it the right way, keep everything clean, and outlive the negativity. And for the most part, that's what I've done. A lot of coaches that couldn't stand it when I started, they're calling me when it's starting, trying to make sure I can get their new quarterback, so he can get some reps and get some competition before spring. So it kind of works itself out. But I think when you do it the right way and you try to keep things, clean, and me being a high school coach, I kind of built it on, what do I want my kids to be involved in and what I don't want my kids to be involved in.
I was just going to say, just a broad question again. You got into space around 2019, 2020. How much has it changed beyond just the coach's perception in the high school ranks? Just as a sport in general, how much has it changed?
Man,
has
I'm
it
gonna tell you
changed for
this.
the better? Do you think?
I think it changed for the better, because at the end of the day, from the NFL to high school, there's one trump card. Is you look at the NFL, the biggest contract gonna be the quarterback. The next biggest contract gonna be the wide receiver.
Yep.
Next biggest contract is gonna be the DB, and the next biggest contract gonna be a guy that can either block for that quarterback or pass rush that quarterback. So everything is built around the pass game, no matter how we want to, run from it. And the biggest thing I think you get from 7-on-7 is ball skills.
Mm-hmm.
You can't argue that. You get into high school and you see a guy, he's done everything right, and as soon as the ball get there, he just doesn't make the play. Mm-hmm. Well, that's, in my opinion, that's where you see the separation of kids that have been in that position weekend after weekend, as opposed to the kid that he might have been working hard, but you can't simulate competition.
Right.
It's speaking on just how much the game has changed. I'm kind of curious from your perspective, because you've coached on the defensive side of the ball since you started. So go back 2 decades ago. How much has the game of football changed in the high school ranks in Alabama? Are you seeing a lot more teams passing, spreading the ball out, or has it taken a little while to adapt in those ranks?
I think certain schools was. I think you get a uptick of both. You get guys that's been spread for years, and then you get guys that may have went spread because the demographic of their kids has changed. When I first started, just to be honest, I was at inner city schools. Our trump card was, if we played a private school, we're going empty. We know they can't match up with an athlete for athlete. But I think now with schools are so diverse now that and no matter who you playing against, they're going to have good players too. So I think that with that change, you have schools that would traditionally run teams that do throw the ball now, and then you may have teams that they ain't really figured out the pass game, so they might try to go against the grain with some old school veer or wing T stuff. But it's hard to have success in the higher levels of high school
Right.
running that, because when I think of option football, I think of Jamil Holloway, and I
Right.
think of Jamil Holloway getting hit while he's pitching. And none of these quarterback trainers are training you to get hit while you pitch the ball.
Oh man.
No, you're definitely not playing that game no more.
No. Now, hey,
well,
but I
well,
want to
Coach,
say this, man.
yeah,
Hey, one thing I wanted to say, Mumphrey, is that I've in starting 251, I've dealt with a lot of different circuits and a lot of different platforms. And one thing I can say about DR7 is that y'all have dedicated to doing things the right way and for the betterment of the kids. From the coverage of the kids, and y'all having articles on the kids and covering the sport, and seriously looking at what we're doing with this platform and finding out how can we do it better each year. And I think that's one thing I think that separates y'all platform from a lot of other ones that I go to, where they're not just dealing, it's not a money grab. It's a deal where we understand the assignment, and we understand that how can we do this better for our kids. And I think through the years you're gonna see a lot of people that, if they're like-minded and they understand that platform, you're gonna attract that. The people that's not in it for that, we won't see them as much. But
yeah.
I'm gonna say through the years that I've been dealing with DR7, I've been seeing that that maturation of each year making steps toward, how can we do it better each year. And I just think that's going to be one of the keys that, that been carrying your platform for a while.
Coach, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, you definitely read our heart, and I think this is where the family comes in at. I really we really feel like we want to be a partnership with the organizations and with the families and the kids. I mean, our whole goal here at the DR Sports platform is how do we help everybody reach their goal, right? It's not about our goal. How do we help everybody reach their goal? We understand the kids' goals and is to get as best many reps as they can to be better on Friday night. We understand that, and so we always want to make sure we give them a competitive environment, allow them to play real football, not 7 yards off the ball covering the guy. That's not fan. That's not real football. So that's why we allow bump in the run. And we really want coaches to coach them and telling them different high lows and different coverages. But then we want the organization to understand that you can trust us when you have when you're there. We want to help promote your organization because you're a connection to us helping to change the industry. And then I think our overall focus has been a grassroots to colleges. So, having relationships with guys like you, guys that have college relationships, we're starting to notice colleges are reaching out to us where we can begin to promote these kids to colleges. That's why our teams work so hard to get that stuff out because colleges are paying attention. I mean, we got schools following us on the platform, Ole Miss, Nebraska, SMU, Arizona. I mean, we hadn't solicited none of these schools, but we keep doing, as you stated earlier, we're going to keep doing the right thing because the right thing, if it ain't about the kid, why do we do it? I see a lot of guys running around doing stuff, and I'm like, the money will be there if you just do the right thing, if that's what you want. But I mean, our goal is, I mean, I was a kid that came out that nobody really told me about recruiting. I didn't have a lot of help. I just kind of played the game because I loved the game. My high school coach didn't help me. I got found the coach watching another kid.
Hmm.
So, but what if somebody really would have taught me how to play, developed me, as well as promoted what we was going on? Then no telling what could have happened. but I'm thankful for what did happen. And so, I go back to what I was missing and what I wanted to, and the great thing about it is like you said, like minds around you. And Forrest continue to help. You and I talk all the time, but we definitely gonna talk before the season. And I take heed and I talk back to my team on what you guys share because it's very important. You're the customer at the end of the day. How can we help you be better? Dedicated podcast is about how do people get to know the man behind and the organization behind 251 Family. Most people don't know what the great work y'all do. And that's what we
Yeah.
that's our whole goal and our vision. So we love having people, but it's okay if they don't come back. We might not be their cup of tea because we don't allow some of the craziness that goes on in the sport. And we want to keep the kids to be respectful because, like you said, a lot of people are watching. And we understand we're moving into that travel ball. So that's kind of where I want to end at. A question with you, not in the call, but a question with you is, we've talked around it, but how do you feel and what is the kind in your community that we're starting to get our own travel season? I mean, this is travel ball like all the other sports have. And I think a lot of these schools and a lot of these UILs and different things have fought this for what I don't understand why a high school would fight for their quarterback and their kid to get better to go play on Friday night because they don't have time to develop.
Well, I'm gonna say it like this, Coach. Is that sometimes a smoker think everybody smokes, and I'm saying it to say they recruit, and when they recruit, they think you must be recruiting their kid too. So
Right.
I'm saying that to say the neighborhood I came up, the area I came up through, it's all about the kid. It's about helping that kid get to a level that he might not have got on. I don't have any ill will or any alternative motives to what I'm doing. So because I don't have those alternative motives, they found that as a safe place for their kids to compete. So the first couple of years, they thought it was just okay. This guy's gonna try to recruit my kids to another school. He's gonna do all that, and obviously that's that goes on. But I don't set a platform for that, and I wouldn't dare do that. But I think a lot of these schools came around when they realized the kid that was playing 7-on-7 has developed. The biggest thing that's going to show is how the kids are when they get back into football. Every time I see a kid that's from my organization that has a big game, I'm going to celebrate it. I'm going to repost it because I've seen that kid grow over the offseason. I actually, a kid that you kind of brought to my attention, Katori Marion, kid at Baker High School in Mobile. He has exploded this season. He had a great season. He's actually a sophomore. When you met him, he's a junior now. He'll probably be one of the top receivers come out of Mobile this year. Actually, another kid, John Austin, that was on and we're talking about kids that was on the 15U team. So these kids we're seeing grow. A lot of these kids are, it's the fruit of it. You do it the right way. It's done the right way. They're competing against talent. You can't help but get better. You're not going to get better talking about talent. You're not going to get talking about, motivating yourself. You got to go play against guys. And I tell people a lot of times, the talent we're going to see in one weekend, you're not going to see 5 of them guys lined up like you're going to see them when we go to a DR7 in Atlanta. That's going to be a little different deal. They might have one of them, but they're not going to have all of them. But the other thing I will say, what people don't want to give 7-on-7 credit for, there's always pictures of these kids after the game, almost like you see the jersey share in college. You see these guys that they're competing against each other, but this is the guy I was traveling with the whole 7-on-7 season. This is my guy. Right. I'm gonna compete against him, but after it's over, hey man, we're gonna get together and go do it again this off season. Mm-hmm. So I think those are the types of things that these schools are starting to see. When their kids come back and they're better. And the other thing I always tell these coaches, you can say 7-on-7 ain't football, but last time I checked, everybody I see get knocked out the playoff is usually about 4th and 17. So you better figure out how to throw the ball.
Well, and the other thing, Coach, on that, couple things I would definitely want to talk about. When I saw your 15U team, now tell me his name one more time. The first kid I told you about.
Katori Marion.
So, that kid there, man, he just popped off. And that's one thing we look for on the platform side of our brand, expose the unexposed. He was a kid that just kept making plays. And at the end of the day, it's about, hey, do you make a play? His ball skills and things like that. And I think that's when he found his confidence in Atlanta. I
Yep.
think that was the first time I seen him get confidence. So it's a certain element of this game that you keep repping, and that competition come, that you gain a confidence that you have to be that, bring that elitism out of it if you have it. So
Yep.
it's exciting to hear that he had a great year. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Can we find that kid? And then what happened is when we put him out there, then you got the national media coming. They want to give him a star. They want to do these things. And I'm okay with that because it's helping the kid. But I'm super excited to see his development and where he end up playing, because he's definitely a Power 5 kid. And you have several of them on that 15U team that I was like, man, so I'm excited to see that happen.
Yeah. I mean, they, like I say, they still communicate with me. We see, if people look at me crazy, I'm taking pictures with kids, from the other, I played a game the other day. I'm taking a picture with like 8 kids off another team after we just finished playing, you know. Now
I
in
love
this 8, I'm not like, so I don't really coach 7. I just own the 7-on-7. So I
Yeah,
can't coach them, but I still have that relationship with those kids,
yeah,
So, but I think it's added something, and even the parents,
yeah.
because the biggest thing is like when you traveling with a kid and this kid is getting recruited or he's going through different things in recruiting. Now they got somebody they've traveled with, built a relationship with, and they can ask them questions. Hey, how did such and such do in recruiting? What when this coach called you? Or even when coaches do things that they ain't say they're gonna do. They told you they was gonna do this, this, and this. You get to school and it ain't the same. Now they got relationship. They might not choose that school now, or they know what questions to ask when they go on recruiting trips now. So all that stuff is the part of the family part, to where now it's just a big family of information.
And network. Yeah. And coach, we're gonna add some value here. Then, before we close out here, being closes out. Want to talk to you, talk about the future of 251. But before that, just kind of share a little bit here. We've been working behind the scene. One of our company's biggest vision was to bring on this financial literacy piece to help bring education to the community, because what I understand about the community is most of us have not been taught a lot of financial literacy. So we're actually in talks with some companies with a company right now to have at several of our events to bring in some elite people to talk about this financial literacy and take some of those athletes that's going to be that next star at the next level, and to help give them NIL and financial education. Because what I feel like that, I don't want to call it a downside, but the other side of when you come into a lot of money is, most families of a lot of these kids, like you said, that's grown up in the projects, have never seen 200,000 or $100,000 a year in a household. So how do they manage that? How do you build your LLCs and those different things? So we're taking on that charge this year, and we definitely know you guys will be a part of it. So I ain't gonna even ask. I'm going to tell you, we'll be talking about those kids, but we want to bring that on to be able to give that
But
for free knowledge and to
but coach,
help these kids and families understand it.
hey, but understand this. They're dealing with that a lot faster now with
Yeah,
NIL.
that's what I'm saying.
So
Yeah,
you got kids now that you used to be dealing with kids, and you say, okay, 3-4 years of college, and now you'll be dealing with money. Now you talking about a kid, he's about to graduate from high school, and they're
yeah,
gonna be dropping $20,000-$30,000 checks on them every month. And if this
yeah,
kid ain't never, I'm gonna tell you this, I'm actually shocked. And that with NIL, you haven't seen a lot of foolishness with the up in money. So I think it's a lot of kids that are kind of getting the message, or they got some things in place, but obviously there's going to be some guys that don't do the right things with the money, and going to have to rebound from it. So
yeah.
I think that's getting ahead of the curve on really helping the kid to where they're going to get it. The better players going to end up in those situations a lot faster these days.
And I just think we have to at least give them some type of direction, because I've heard some stories. I'm not gonna say any names, kind of like you, but kid getting 12,000 a month, go buy a car. He gets his family don't know, mom house no 500-600 a month. Barely know how to book a ticket. Great athlete, and he get took buying a car. It's 1,500 a month. You know, and don't understand. And then the rest of it he's spending on clothes. I mean, yeah, he ain't doing anything that we can see in the news, but where is he investing it? He doesn't, he hadn't paid his taxes, hadn't did any of that stuff. So we have to be responsible as men and as leaders. I think to at least give them the knowledge and at least try to set them up, whether they take it or not. And we got to get them before they get in college. Because once I get the bag, I don't care what you say at that point. I got the bag, but I'm gonna listen a little harder, a little bit clearer up front when I don't have it all sitting there in front of me. So trying to get to them earlier. When the great thing about our platform, we're building relationships from 8 years old all the way up. So hopefully they'll start to see that our heart is bigger than anything else to help them be successful in life. And that's what I feel like a ton of the organizations are all about, especially 251.
Yeah. Actually, man, one thing I'm actually adding this year, and you know me, I'm the t-shirt man around now with the 251 shirts. We're going to add a group of shirts this year and hoodies to where we're only giving them to kids that make the honor roll. So there'll be like a designated color that those kids, you'll get it with your report card. You give me your report card, your AB honor roll, you'll get that color. But you can't buy that color. The only way you can get that color is, if you got the grades.
That sets up perfectly, Coach, because I wanted to ask you about you guys actually partnered with the company AEI Educational Services to do ACT prep.
Yes.
So talk about that a little bit. And then also you had mentioned earlier bringing in former Mobile athletes. You mentioned T. Martin. Some of these kids might not know who that is, but I mean, that's a college football legend, coaching legend. So just talk about that, the mindset of, bringing those guys in and also the ACT prep that you guys offer as well.
All right. So believe it or not, me and T are best friends.
Okay.
T has actually called me uncle. So, that's family to me. And he supports 251. Him being with the Ravens now, he's having a great career, being a quarterback coach for Lamar. So, but a lot of these guys have, so believe it or not, when I started 251, T was at USC. So T was, I think he was at USC, but when he was at USC, I'm going out there and I'm getting to see the 7-on-7 teams and all that type of stuff. So those guys, the guys that have left Mobile, have success, they've seen it. So it was new to the people in Mobile, but those guys have seen the development. They have seen it, how it can be used the right way. So they was really my sounding board for the things that I wanted to get done. Now, AEI, Dr. Roberson, I love her to death. One thing I learned, like you said earlier, I've always kind of made my bones helping with college recruiting. But the one thing you got to understand is if you don't understand eligibility, you really can't do college recruiting because you don't know how to help a child. Like I have to tell these kids all the time that we give so much gray area where we say, okay, you got to have the grades to go, but we don't necessarily say exactly what does that mean. Give me an actual playbook on how do I get eligible. So when I tell kids, okay, you're taking 7 classes a day, you're making 7 credits a year, 2 additional summer school, night school. Let's say you're making a possible 40 credits over your 4-year career. Well, how many does the NCAA worry about? I didn't hear 28, 36, whatever. And when you tell them there's 16 core classes, if I told you these 16 classes are one you got to have to be eligible, you can put a different focus in that and really understand. Another thing that a lot of people miss is